I don't like being gaslit. I don't like it one iota. I don't like it when people I dislike do it. And I certainly, doubly so, don't like it when people who I actually like and support on this channel do it. A lot of gaslighting has been going on around this choice or the selection of Nancy Pelosi as Speaker of the House, particularly by progressive groups that have been using the term progressive as if it's some kind of noun and is completely untethered to something that you do. Meaning the person can just stand there, do not one thing, and that person is somehow progressive. This is, of course, nonsense. This has been used for Nancy Pelosi as if she's been baptized and has come out of the waters somehow a lefty. I find this to be utterly absurd. The person who's pushing PAYGO, who's pushing legislation that will completely decapitate any notion of Medicare for all of the things that lefties ran on in this last race, you know, spitting thunder and fire by people who are giving them, cobbling together the last scratch that they have to put in their pocket and say, please go out and represent me. Get rid of those dinosaurs that have been there that are mugging up the process, that have completely alienated the human being and the human element from the political edifice that is supposed to be receptive to that human element. Go out and change the political system. Let's bring in Ocasio Cortez. She goes to Congress spitting fire. I mean, riding this electricity or this lightning of saying Medicare for all, healthcare. And mind you, it's not as if this is somehow, you know, out in the weeds. If you talk to the American public, they would say, yes, this is what we want. We've been getting the boot of this kind of corporate system on our throats, and we're looking for anything that can alleviate this, make our lives a little bit easier. If that means us coming together and supporting healthcare and supporting education, yes, let's do that. I only make $30,000 a year. Let's make that a little bit easier of a burden to carry. Ocasio Cortez starts off, Green Energy New Deal, goes to a protest that's at Nancy Pelosi's office. Gold star. I like. I don't necessarily know what that gets you from the standpoint of bang for your buck and in regards to policy, but I like the optics of it. Second front, making this argument of, yes, you need to get these corporate hacks out. These dinosaurs need to be primary. It needs to be dragged out of their office. And new people needs to be installed, people who I can work with to get stuff done. I like that too, because that's honest. That makes all the sense in the world. Why would you put a politician in a particular office if that politician is not representing their district? And if that district, who that politician is supposed to be representing, doesn't believe that that politician is representing it because they haven't necessarily shown that they're representing it, then it is the right thing to do to take them out that office and put somebody in who will represent that district. Makes all the sense in the world. But in what is really the reality here of being bent to form, meaning that regardless of all this other stuff that's being said, bent to form moment is, are you going to vote for Pelosi? Now, Ocasio has given a statement on this, and the statement to some degree is nonsense. And I don't necessarily know how to take that statement as if I am gaslighting the public into believing that a choice that I'm about to make that is literally a lesser evil choice is somehow more palatable than it comes across. I want to make this more palatable to my constituents that voted for this because I know they're going to hate it and they're not necessarily going to like it. So I'm going to put a caveat into my support, even though there is no such thing as a caveat in the support that you give on a legislation. Are you going to vote for it or not? Yes or no? You can abdicate, but let's not pretend that there's a caveat. Ocasio Cortez is supporting Nancy Pelosi for Speaker of the House. And she puts in a caveat on that. Right here. Alexandria Ocasio throws support behind Nancy Pelosi for House Speaker. Incoming announces Alexandria Ocasio Cortez announces support for Representative Nancy Pelosi under one condition, that Pelosi continue to stand for progressive values. Well, Pelosi doesn't stand for progressive values. So what does that mean? You're gaslighting me. that she continues to stand for progressive values. Now, I look at this and I think she's trying to send a message to Nancy Pelosi that the support is some degree conditional and she could pull it. But the fact of the matter is you make your vote and that's it. You made your vote, yay or nay, whether or not she's going to be Speaker of the House. There is no conditionality associated with it. Conditionality is something that goes beyond the legal system itself. Ocasio expresses a worry that the party is tilted to the right, hinting that Nancy Pelosi is the Democrat best bet at remaining progressive. What do you mean remaining? What do you mean remaining? She's not for health care. She's not for education. She's not for the expansion of Social Security. And she is literally trying to put through legislation that would decapitate your ability to get any of that passed. Let's be clear on what we're talking about. The brutality of a forced choice. You're being bent to form. Let's not make it more palatable than what it is. Tell the truth, shame the devil. I agree that our party should and must evolve our leadership, she says in a series of tweets on Wednesday. But changed leadership should reflect actual evolved mission, namely an increase in commitment to the middle and working class electorate that put us here. Otherwise, it's just a new figure with the same problems. Yes, that's true. That's true. We're working in two different spaces. From her standpoint, she's put in what she would consider an impossible situation, and she's given political language to get that across, trying, I guess, to assuage the people who put her in that office that's going to hate this choice, but also to somehow get across to Pelosi that this is conditional, that for this support, she expects, I guess you could say, more influence in the political instrument. I look at this and I say, are you telling me that the same dinosaurs are going to remain in power and you're going to support the dinosaur that repudiates everything that you believe in? And not just repudiates it, it's trying to decapitate it. Call it what it is. You may call it an unpalatable choice. Fair enough. You can say you don't necessarily want to do it. Fair enough. But don't tell me that this woman is progressive and this is somehow a progressive choice, as if progressive is a noun and is not completely tethered to what actions you take in this world. Is she for Medicare for all? No. Is she for the expansion of Social Security? No. Is she for education? No. Then I don't know what you're talking about. Is she for green energy? No, she's not. Then I have no idea what you're talking about when you're calling this woman progressive, or you're acting as if she's been baptized somehow in the fires of something that has given her a quality of progressiveness. Let's see. Yes, we need a new members for People's Party. I agree we need a new party. Yes. There is no party that full-throatedly represents the interests of workers. None. No party. Every so often you get a random Democrat here or there that puts up a good fight. But look at what's happening to Ocasio. For all of the things that she believes in and all of the things that she came to Washington in order to change, or at the very least to be a symbol of change in this case, she's been bent forward. Bend the knee and vote for Pelosi or else. Or else. That's the reality of this. That's the reality of this. Yes, we need a new party. We need something that represents the interests of workers. We need something that pushes for a Green New Deal. Unabashed. That's not running on corporate cash. This reality where you have a political system that allows donations for people that have a vested interest in the thing that they're donating for. Meaning it's this investment in the politician in order to be against certain items because it represents your interests. So it's like, how do you get a Democrat to go against an oil company if that Democrat is taking money from that oil company? I mean, come on. Why do we have this as a political system at all? She was sent there to change this. But the reality of it is impossible for her to change it in a party that doesn't want to change. Boarding the ship. Looks like the ship is boarding her. Wicked guru, you're being a reductionist. Okay, I think you guys are arguing. if they're president, I pardon Assange, but that ain't going to happen today. I'm not president. Alice is going to, right? We need progressivist socialist parties to rise. Yes, but we also need a new electorate system together, the system that is not rigged. At this moment, I don't see elections as a path to progress. So I agree with so much on that. Yes, we need something outside of the political instrument that lays on the political instrument in order to get some level of change. Because as I made the point before, you have dollars or you have pitchforks. Up to this point, you've just had dollars. Up to this point, you've just had dollars. I understand the brutality of a forced choice. I get this lesser evil voting thing. It's soothing. Oh, it's soothing. But whether it's soothing or not, I mean, ultimately, this is a repudiation of everything that you say you believed in. Look up Article 13, John Hill. All right. I don't know what Article 13 is, but I'll check it out. Order of chaos. You cannot fix a corrupt system from within that system. Maybe if everyone got on the same page and pulled the tug of the rope in the same direction, maybe. But in reality, no. Yes. Which is kind of my point, that it has to go beyond the political system. Either, yes, a third party would be great. That would allow you to pull on what the Democratic Party is while simultaneously trying to get people in who can full-throatedly represent you. And just by virtue of having something like that, you would pull the parties to the left. But Bernie Sanders, by himself, is not going to give you Medicare for all. Like Ocasio Cortez, as one person, as one representative, is not going to give you the change in the political system that is desired. You're talking about a mass upheaval, a mass movement of people saying, we want something else. And I would argue Medicare for all being a tip of the spear and a red line in regards to who you won't support. Is this person online for Medicare for all? Yes or no? And let that be the end of the choice. Now, I say this to say this. This idea of supporting corporate Democrat hacks just because you're terrified of the Republican needs to go away. It needs to go away. There is no accountability in the system that's built that way. This lesser evil choice. It eschews any notion, gets rid of any notion of accountability. Yeah, it eschews any notion of accountability. The order of chaos. Third party is not outside the system. Yes, it is. It takes a revolution. A third party is a revolution, especially if you're talking about in the United States and in the political system that has been organized against third parties. It is. Right. Left and right distractions are your life on the web, so you're wholly trackable. Okay, I don't know what that means. I like Tulsi Gabbard more. Mumo Muki. We need to raise class consciousness. Most of Americans support Medicare for all and other left-wing measures by majority. Yes, that is true. That is true. Hood woman, Louisiana. Democrats are focused on dumping Trump, period. End of the effort. They want Pence in presidency. I can't deal with this duopoly. Bad is bad, better is not good, and better is still bad. Wow, like that. All of Ocasio-Cortez power stems from party influence. The party is, I don't know if I agree with that part. The party is directly responsible for the cash, connections, and media she gets. The push, they pushed her up, and they canceled. Yeah, that's where we disagree. That's a no. That's a demonstrative no that completely ignores the reality to which you found yourself. When Ocasio-Cortez got elected, she didn't get elected based on any kind of party support. I mean, all of that, they didn't even cover her from the standpoint of media. She won that race. And after she won that race, the media was looking for a narrative that they could wrap around her. And, oh, look at this Democratic socialist that came from this, nowhere in New York that nobody was paying attention to. That's a media narrative. That's not something where the party is wrapping their arms around her, per se. Her influence and her money is tethered to a particular community. Again, I understand her running as a Democrat leaves a bad taste in your mouth. It leaves a bad taste in my mouth, too. I don't particularly like it. we should pay attention to reality here. Ivory Oasis, I am shocked the Democrat acting as a Democrat. I know, right? How could this 24-year-old kid not be the change we believe in? And so I agree with the surliness of the comment, because I think people have hefted too much on her shoulders in regards to what she was going to be able to do by herself. So I agree with you on this, Ivory Coast. But again, it doesn't necessarily mean people have to like it. In fact, she was put in to do the opposite of this. So I feel you. No matter how many votes we get, third parties will not run until we fix the electoral system. Yes, but how do you fix the electoral system that doesn't necessarily want to be fixed because people who are involved in being in office like the system the way it is? Meaning, if you're a Democrat or you're a Republican and you've kind of rigged the system to allow you to stay in your power spots, how do you change that? This is kind of what I mean, Trudy. This goes beyond just the political system itself. It goes into this kind of mass movement. You can have political leaders that can bring on the mob that kind of and you know, push forward for this particular idea. Donald Trump does it on the right. You can have somebody who does it on the left, like a Sanders. But let's be clear, it will take something pushing on the political instrument in order to get the change that people want. So, just saying. As far as Ocasio Cortez's opponent, it was like he wanted to lose. He got rewarded for throwing the race. Crowley didn't want to lose. Are you talking about Crowley, or are you talking about her Republican opponent? Crowley didn't want to lose that race. Crowley just assumed that he would win that race. It's a difference in those things. Kula, my fear is Ocasio is being corrupted by the party. She forgets to be progressives in a decade. By that time, she might never get voted out of office. I hope she doesn't go that route, third party. I don't think it's that way. So what I think is taking place here is she's being presented with a forced choice. She's being presented with some of the same dynamics that you're presented with when you go to the polls and you're pushed into this lesser evil voting. You want Clinton or do you want Trump? Which one do you want? You want peas or liver? Those are the only choices you get, peas or liver. We're presented with that choice in the electoral space. But the electoral space that takes place from our standpoint is a similar electoral space that takes place in the federal level when they have to make their votes themselves on the people who they want to run these offices of sorts. And in her case, she's given a choice of, do you want Nancy Pelosi, who's against everything that you said you were for, and who is a repudiation of all that you have gone to Congress to change, or do you want some other kind of corporate hack that's worse? It's your choice. We'll give you 2 minutes. Just let us know which one you want. That's what I mean. That's the thing. That's the scenario she gets. Vinzo, forget electoral politics in the United States without a ranked choice voting or parliamentary system that goes beyond the duopoly. Probably not going to happen. Well, at that point, you've just said forget elections entirely in the United States, which I don't think you should do. Carolyn Wolf, that's why she is getting so much press. I mean, look, the media runs on narratives. It just does. The media runs on narratives. And in running on narratives, they found a popular narrative in order to push her up. Now, I think the argument you're trying to make is that she's faux opposition, and that ultimately all of the positions and everything that she takes are being kind of pushed as a way of having, you know, the Washington Generals versus the Globetrotters, her being the Washington Generals in this case. I don't buy that argument. I just don't buy that line of argument. Marsha Villager, hoodie woman, I fear that we all face a violent fate if we allow the system to continue. It's either World War III, climate change disaster, or some other kind of revolutionary civil war. Diog de Pogue, we aren't going to get anywhere without a real revolution, not this fake political revolution. I don't think that... Look, we can make an argument or what a political revolution looks like. That's subjective. Let's be clear. That there's a subjectivity associated with that. I would agree with you that putting in one democratic socialist is not the same thing as a political revolution. I don't think that's true at all. I would even agree that the support, to some degree, I would even agree on this, that I made the argument that Bernie Sanders made Democratic Party better liars. And what I mean by that is better, easier to mimic what got him the success that he was able to engender, and to parrot that success as opposed to actually changing anything. So as opposed to saying, okay, why did we lose 1,100 seats? Why did we lose the House, the Senate, and the Supreme Court, and the presidency? Why did we lose all of this stuff to maniacs, to knuckle draggers, to people who are fucking up their wrists or knuckles every time they walk from podium to post? How are we losing to these maniacs? That conversation never took place. Instead, there's a very instrumental conversation that needs to be heard for Nancy Pelosi, who has essentially made the case back when Trump got elected that she was going to bide her time because people will come back to her because of how bad Trump is. I suspect she's been right. She's been shown to be right. It's not that the Democratic Party changed anything at all. It's that for the most part, you've had some that were able to push forward an idea of what the public wanted. But that's elements of the party. That's not the party in and of itself. And the same old dinosaurs who were selected before are now back in office. And not just back in office, has gotten the Democratic Socialists to support them. The choices that she's confronted with are similar choices that we're confronted with as an electorate. And in her case, she decided that she wanted her first vote to count, and she wanted that first vote to be for Nancy Pelosi. My issue with this is, A, you're repudiating everything that you got in office for. B, you're telling us that this is somehow a progressive choice. It's not. It's not. Trudy, what were her choices? Well, Trudy, that's kind of the point, right? I mean, I don't look at this as her, quote unquote, selling out, as some people would say, because I don't necessarily know what they mean by selling out. But I don't like the choice. I don't like the choice. I mean, her argument would be it was between Nancy Pelosi and a bunch of other corporatist hacks. And that if you're going to make a choice in this way, you should make a choice that gets you further along, not less, in which case her choice was Pelosi. I understand why she did it. I totally understand why she did it. Alexandria Ocasio Cortez sold out her values, Jamarl. She's in a different space. I just say it that way. But she's not sworn in yet. She ought to shut up. Well, no, she shouldn't shut up. I don't want her to shut up. So you're criticizing the system more than Ocasio-Cortez, Jamarl. Yes, because people are functioning within a system. The problem is the system itself. Yes, there is an issue with Ocasio-Cortez making this vote. I don't necessarily like it. But let's be very clear that the system in some degree is compelling this behavior. She's compelling the behavior. Jamarl is defending another fake progressive. Oh, God. Okay, John. She should shut up and drool. What? Cortez is full neoliberal, Edward Klein. That's what I don't agree with. I don't think she are. Yes, you're agreeing with me here, Jamarl. What am I agreeing with? She should shut up. It isn't a good starting point to open up the issues on the system of class warfare. Yes, that part I agree with you on. Not that she should shut up. I don't think she should shut up. I don't like her supporting Nancy Pelosi, so let's be very clear. But the shut up stuff, I don't know what that means. She's a congressman. She's supposed to make noise. Spend money and you would win, and more money and you will win. The strategy is the only strategy that would use money as cloaks their abuses from costing the elections repeat. She shouldn't vote. John Hill. So that was my thought, John Hill. My thought was abdicate from the vote on this. Because ultimately your party or the people who will put you in that office don't want you to make this vote. And the only reason that you would try to assuage people in this way is because you know they don't want you to make this vote. Abdicate your vote. I thought the same. I said she shouldn't shut up. Oh, I'm sorry. I misread. Oh, I misread, Soviet. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I am sorry. All right. I'm going to end this. John Hill, I think I agree with you on this. Abdication of the vote is probably a better option. Slow down a tad and you'll get to the history of the chat thread. Just well, it's not slowing down two time. The chats come up quickly, so it's back to back to back to back. There's not I can't always see them. Let's see. Hold on, Balthazar. Let me check, because I didn't see anything pop up to indicate that there was a donation. Jimmy was right. Ultimately, Jimmy was right. Just as Democrats are going to take over the party before the planet becomes uninhabitable. Cal was wrong and is in denial. His party, this party, has no intention of being taken over. I get your point. You know, you have a sentence of 12 years and playing this pity pat. I give you this if you give me that. This kind of incrementalism stuff. There's no time for the incrementalism. I get your point. I get your point. Say Cal is in denial on this. I don't know. I would love to hear Cal debate Nick Brown on this. I think it'd be a fascinating conversation. I think it'd be a fascinating conversation. Trudy, Cal is right. I don't know, man. I don't know. I don't know. Like, because look, you've been given 12 years. The UN gave you a 12-year death sentence, meaning you need to transform the way you go about your affairs. It needs to change. You need to change this. Otherwise, how we go about living on this planet fundamentally is altered for the worse. 12 years. Now, that 12-year death sentence is not incrementally worse, because they can't necessarily evaluate that. They're going by this kind of average notion. But the fact of the matter is, there's no way for them to exactly predict how bad this gets, how fast this gets, and whether or not that 12-year threshold is less than 12 years, a little bit more, or even the severity of what that means. They're giving you a projection. But the idea that these guys who are so conservative on the normal accounts, giving you 12 years to fix this, to change this, to radically alter what it means to be a person on this planet and in this world. And you get into Congress and you have to fight tooth and nail just to get the basics of a green energy New Deal. And you still didn't even get that. Like, I'm trying to make this point that your scientist, the people who describe your world to you, have just told you that your world is falling apart. California is on fire. People have died with California on fire. Are you going to change your system or not? Yes or no? And then the person or one of the people who get there with such fanfare, with this notion of we're going to change the system, is bent into shape. Support the person who's not for the green energy New Deal. And I use the green energy New Deal as just an example of somebody telling you your planet is about to be hit by an asteroid. And the people are dithering over even to do the most minor or minimal to avert it. Now, Cal may look at this and say, we're boarding the ship, but how long do you have for this incrementalism stuff to take hold? And are we still into this tit-for-tat politics, even when we're under the umbrella of an asteroid? Like, so Jimmy is not wrong when Jimmy makes this point. I think what Cal would say is, what do you expect me to do? Like, I think Cal will look at this and say, I have no power in this situation other than doing what I am doing. Now, to some degree, yes, I think you should support third parties. I definitely think you should support actions outside of the political instrument that press and bang on the political instrument to try to pull it into form. But we're beyond this, this incrementalism stuff. We're beyond this incrementalism stuff. We're capitalists and that's just the way it is. Nancy Pelosi, Mike S. Yes. Trudy, protest civil disobedience and Bernie. Oh, God. Oh, God. You're about to start an argument, Trudy. You're going to start an argument. Bernie Sanders. I don't know, Trudy. I don't know if Bernie Sanders is going to save us. We need to act through the courts and through the powers of consumers and workers. Yes, the polls are mostly useless. Oh God, we're fucked. I guess I hear this stuff and I hear people say, you know, it's like we should do this or we should do that. And I think to myself, there is no support for any of this. Like we're screaming in a funnel. True change never happens until something awful happens. Michael Parks, yes, I'm beginning to think that's true. When I think about the people who were pissed off with the Vietnam War, well, they were pissed off because they were being drafted. Maybe not so much because you were just murdering people. I look at the number of people that we've murdered. I have a report coming up showing that there were 500,000 people that we can account for, and that there are millions of others that we can't, in the wars that we've taken across the globe. Like, that's a powerful thing. That's a punishing thing to look at and to read and see there's no accountability in the things that take place. And then when people around the world get pissed off at our actions around the globe, and they look at us and they're like, you guys are comfortable. Somebody told me, she says, you're comfortable. That's what it is. You all look comfortable. I'm beginning to think you're right. Stuff doesn't happen, or things don't happen until bad things or other bad things intercede. All right, I'm going to end this. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. Thanks all.